ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඉදිරිපත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. ගෞරවනීය ස්වාමින් වහන්සේ, මිත්‍යා සතිය සහ මිත්‍යා සමාධිය කුමක්ද? මිත්‍යා සතිය සහ සම්මා සතිය අතරත් මිත්‍යා සමාධිය හා සම්මා සමාධිය අතරත් ඇති වෙනස පැහැදිලි කර දෙන්න මේ නිල්ලමි. Bante, the question is, what is the meaning of wrong mindfulness and wrong concentration? And what is the relationship in between wrong mindfulness and right mindfulness? And what is the relationship in between wrong concentration and right concentration?
Okay, good. So with samadhi, my understanding is that samma samadhi is obviously the 4 jhanas. That is how it is often described in the suttas. But also it is described as the 4 jhanas that are supported by, that have as requisites the other 7 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, right? So when samma samadhi comes together with the rest of the Noble Eightfold Path, that is when it is samma samadhi. So you're starting with right view all the way up to the top. But sometimes people can reach samadhi also based on things like wrong view. You can start off with wrong ideas. There are many stories, for example, in Christianity, Christian monasteries in the Middle Ages. This was in Europe, and there were people, sages you would probably call them, who were able to attain states of stillness that look very similar to the things we would call samadhi in the present day. But they will have wrong view, obviously, an idea of a creator God. We know the same thing is true in the Hindu tradition, the Vedantic tradition. A lot of meditation practice going on, people attaining very profound samadhi sometimes, but often it is based, again, on wrong view. So that is how I understand the difference. The actual level of samadhi may be roughly the same, but the wrong view is what is the problematic thing there. And I think something similar may also be the case for samma sati, perhaps, and miccha sati, that there is a distinction there, perhaps, in the view and in how you're using that. I think the main import, perhaps it is different with sati, I'm not entirely sure. One possibility is that samma sati is precisely the sati that we use to purify the mind, right? You use sati in the right areas to understand the body in the right way, to understand the defilements in the right way. And when you use sati like that, that is samma sati, the sati that leads you to samma samadhi eventually. But of course, sati can be used in so many areas of life. And I know that there are meditation teachers, especially perhaps in the West, I don't know about Sri Lanka, but certainly in the Western world, and they teach meditation to increase your enjoyment of the world, right? So you can have better relationships with other people, so you can enjoy your sensual pleasures more powerfully. And this is certainly wrong ideas of samadhi. You're not doing the sati to purify yourself. You're doing a little bit of meditation so you can enhance your enjoyment of sensual pleasures afterwards. And it's not going to go very far. All you're doing is finding a bit of peace in your practice, a bit of peace in your daily life, and then using that in a way which doesn't actually take you much further. That is roughly my understanding of these things.
සම්මා සමාධිය කියලා කියන්නේ ධ්‍යානාංග 4. අනිත් ආර්ය ශ්‍රාංක මාර්ගයේ අනිත් අංග 7න් උපකාර ලද සමාධිය තමයි සම්මා සමාධිය කියලා කියන්නේ. මිත්‍යා දෘෂ්ටිය පදනම් කරගෙන ඇති වෙන සමාධිය තමයි මිත්‍යා සමාධිය කියන්නේ. ක්‍රිස්තියානි ආගමේ හෝ වේවා එහෙම නැත්නම් හින්දු ආගමේ බ්‍රහ්මත්වය අවබෝධ කර ගැනීම සඳහා වේවා ඒගොල්ලොත් ගැඹුරු සමාධි උපදව ගන්නවා. නමුත් ඒ සමාධි පසුබිමේ තියෙන මිත්‍යා දෘෂ්ටිය. ඒ නිසා ඒවට මිත්‍යා සමාධි කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේම සම්මා සතිය සහ මිත්‍යා සතිය ගැන කතා කරනකොට ඒට දෘෂ්ටිය තමයි පදනම් වෙන්නේ. මිත්‍යා දෘෂ්ටිය පදනම් වෙලා ඇතිවෙන සතිය මිත්‍යා සතිය කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. සම්මා දිට්ඨිය පදනම් වෙලා ඇති වෙන සතිය සම්මා සතිය කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. සම්මා සතිය සම්මා සමාධිය වෙත යොමු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. කෙලෙස් දුරු කර ගැනීම පිණිස මේ ශරීර පංච උපාදානස්කන්ධ අවබෝධ කර ගැනීම පිණිස යොමු වෙලා තියෙන සතිය සම්මා සතිය කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේම ලෞකික දේවල් පිණිස පංචකාමයන් වැඩි වැඩියෙන් ලබා ගැනීම පිණිස යම් කෙනෙක් සතිය දියුණු කරනවා නම් ඒක මිච්ඡා සතිය කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. බන්තේ ඊගා ප්‍රශ්නය අන්තරා භවය පිළිබඳ සූත්‍රවලට අනුව පැහැදිලි කරන්නේ කෙසේද? Bante, the question is how to explain antara bhava according to suttas.
Okay, so I guess the question is which suttas perhaps support the idea of antarabhava. I guess that perhaps is what it is. And there's a number of suttas that talk about things which seem to imply an antarabhava. One of those suttas is one that is found in the Anguttara 4s. It talks about 4 types of sangyojana being the fetters, the bindings that bind a person to samsara, right? And the 4 sangyojanas, there's a distinction there between the upapatti sangyojana and the bhava sangyojana. Right? Bhava sangyojana, the fetter of existence. Upapatti sangyojana, the fetter of re-arising. Now, according to this sutta, it is possible to abolish the upapatti sangyojana, but still have the bhava sangyojana, still have the sangyojana of existence. Right? So what this means, obviously, is that there is a distinction between continued existence and actually re-rising into a future birth. And from that, for me, the only logical explanation of that distinction between the upapatti sangyojana and the bhava sangyojana is that when you die, you continue into some kind of intermediate existence, but you don't actually re-rise into a renewed existence, into a new life in the future, karma taking its course. That is one sutta. There is another very interesting sutta which talks about the 7 different types of the anagamis, and it explains those anagamis with a number of similes. And those similes are like somebody having an ambolt and a hammer, and they use a sledgehammer and they hit this ambolt or whatever, and a spark flies up when you hit the steel against the steel. And the first type of anagami is when the spark flies up and then the spark dies out as it flies up. The second one is the spark kind of rising up in the air, falling down, and as it hits the ground, it dies out. And then the third type of anagami, that is when the spark rises up, hits the ground, hits some dry grass, and then sets the grass alight and burns the grass. And then there is various similes on how much the grass is burned, etc., etc. I can't remember every detail so well. But if you look at those similes, the feeling you get from looking at these similes, it's impossible to be absolutely sure of this. All of these things are just the judgments you make yourself when you read the suttas. But what it looks like is that the spark, before it hits the ground, that is the antarabhava. Hitting the ground is the beginning of a new existence. If it burns a lot of grass, it means that it's an existence which lasts a long time with a lot of more upadana, right? The idea of burning and fuel is very similar to the idea of upadana in the suttas. So again, it looks like from that simile, this is my understanding of this, and some other people I know would say the same. That looks like an antarabhava. There are many other small indications as well in the suttas, but those are 2 of the major ones.
උත්තර දීමේදී උන්වහන්සේ අංගුත්තර නිකායේ 4 තියෙන අංගුත්තර චතුක්ක නිපාතයේ තියෙන සූත්‍රයක් උපුටා දක්වනවා. සංයෝජන 4ක් තියෙනවා කියලා උන්වහන්සේ සඳහන් කරනවා මේට අදාළ වෙන ආකාරයෙන්. එහි තියෙන උප්පත්ති සංයෝජන කියලා එකකුයි භව සංයෝජන කියලා එකකුයි. මේ උප්පත්ති සංයෝජන දුරු කරන්න පහසුයි. ඒ භව සංයෝජන දුරු කරන්න අපහසුයි. උපපති සංයෝජන කියන එක තුල කිසියම් උපතකට බලපාන සංයෝජන තියෙනවා. ඒව නැති කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒත් මේ භව සංයෝජන කියන එක උපතට පළමුවෙන් ඉඳන් බලපානවා. මේ භව සංයෝජන කියන කාරණාව තමයි මෙතන අන්තරා භව වශයෙන් කියන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ කියලායි උන්වහන්සේගේ අදහස. ඒ වගේම අනාගාමීන් පිළිබඳ තියෙන සූත්‍රයේ සඳහන් වෙනවා අනාගාමීන් වහන්සේලා 7 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා කියලා. එහිලා උපමාවක් දක්වලා තියෙනවා මේ ගිනි පුළිඟුවක් අහසට ගියාම ඇතැම් වෙලාවට ගිනි පුළිඟුව අහසෙදිම නිවිලා යනවා. ඇතැම් වෙලාවට පොළොවට වැටිච්ච ගමන් නිවෙනවා. ඇතැම් වෙලාවට පොළොවට වැටිලා තනකොළ ටිකක් පුච්චගෙන ගිහිල්ලා නිවිලා යනවා. මේ ආදී වශයෙන් තියෙන මේ උපමාව අරගෙන උන්වහන්සේ කියනවා මේ අහසට ගිහිල්ලා ආයි පොළොවට වැටෙනකන් ඒ අතරතුර කාලය අන්තරාභවයේ වගේ කියලා. උන්වහන්සේගේ අදහසක් තමයි මේ කියන්නේ. මේ ගැන සමහරු එකඟ වෙන්න පුළුවන්, එකඟ නොවෙන්න පුළුවන්. මේ සූත්‍ර දෙක තමයි උන්වහන්සේට මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න තියෙන්නේ.
There is so I finished? Yeah? Okay. There's actually one more sutta that came to mind while you were saying that. And this is perhaps even the most powerful of all indications of antrabhava. And this is a sutta where the Buddha is discussing with, I think, the wanderer Vacchagotta, I think it is. And this Vacchagotta, he asks the Buddha, what is it that sustains the person after they have died, but before they have re-arisen in a new existence? What is it that sustains the personality in that period in between? And the Buddha replies that what sustains the personality of the person after they have died, but before they have re-arisen, right? So what is that? And he says that thing which sustains it there is craving. Craving is still the thing which sustains that person.
මේ වච්චගොත්ත සූත්‍රයට අනුව ඒ වච්චගොත්තට බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේ දේශනා කරන යාහන ප්‍රශ්නයකට අනුව මරණින් පස්සේ ඒ වගේම උපදීමට කලින් මොකද්ද උපාදාන වෙන්නේ කියලා. එතකොට තණ්හාව තමයි එහි උපාදානය කියලා බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේ දේශනා කරනවා. මේ අවස්ථාවේදී තණ්හාව තමයි උපාදාන කරගන්නේ කියලා. ඉතින් ඒකත් මේ අන්තරාභවයට කිසියම් සාක්ෂියක් වශයෙන් උන්වහන්සේ දක්වනවා.
It's not actually in the Vacchagotta Sutra, but it's one of the sutras where the Buddha is talking to Vacchagotta.
මේ ප්‍රශ්නය අපි අන් අයගෙන් ආර්ය නිශ්ශබ්දතාවය බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවට වඩා ඒ අවස්ථාවලදී සිහියට පැමිණ ඉවසීම පුරුදු කරන්නට හැකිනම් ඒ අපේ ආධ්‍යාත්මික දියුණුවට සාක්ෂියක් නොවේද? Bante, he is saying, without expecting noble silence from others, if we can patient even at that time, it can be our spiritual development, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Exactly. That's exactly right. You never know what other people are going to do. Other people are unreliable. Sometimes we are unreliable ourselves, with ourselves, and other people even more so. So yes, it's sometimes the best attitude, instead of trying to change what other people do, is just to accept this is the way it is, this is the way it is, and just be peaceful with yourself and accept the situation. And that, as quite rightly you say, it's very often for your own spiritual development.
ඒක ඇත්තම තමයි අනිත් අයගෙන් යමක් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවට වඩා තමන්ම ඒ විදිහට තමන්ගේ ආධ්‍යාත්මික දියුණුව ඇති කර ගන්නවා නම් ඒ අවස්ථාවලදී නිවැරදි ආකාරයෙන් කටයුතු කරලා ඒක තමයි හොඳම විදිහ කියලා උන්වහන්සේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
I think one of the things that you often see with people who are very spiritually developed, people who, especially when people reach the Aryan stages, is how they don't really try to control the world anymore. They just allow things to be here. That, I think, should be a very good sign to all of us, how we should actually deal with all the external phenomena, how we should deal with the world. Try to be like those Aryans, right? They just allow things to be. They go about their way. They do what they have to do to be at peace. But very rarely do they try to control the world around them and all the external phenomena.
සැබවින්ම ආධ්‍යාත්මිකව දියුණු වෙච්ච අය අනිත් බාහිර ලෝකය පාලනය කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ වෙනුවට ඒ සියල්ලත් එක්ක සාමකාමීව කටයුතු කරනවා. ඉතින් ඒක තමයි සැබවින්ම ආධ්‍යාත්මික දියුණුවක් තියෙනවා නම් දියුණුව උපදව ගන්නවා නම් ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ස්වභාවය විය යුත්තේ. Next question Bante. අතීත අකුසල හෝ කුසල සවිස්තර මත දැන් වර්තමානයේ සතුටු වන්නේ නම් ප්‍රමෝදයට පත්වන්නේ නම් භවය සකස් වන්නේ කෙසේදයි පහදා දෙන්න. අතීත අකුසල හෝ කුසල සංස්කාර මත වර්තමානයේ සතුටු වන්නේ නම් ප්‍රමෝදයට පත්වන්නේ නම් භවය සකස් වන්නේ කෙසේදයි පහදා දෙන්න. He's asking Bante, if we enjoy the past sankharas, if we enjoy on the past sankharas in the present moment, then how bhava emerge or bhava form?
Okay, I'm not sure if it's not very clear to me, to be honest.
If we happy on the past sankharas now, on past sankharas we happy now. Because of that, how bhava emerges, so becoming
existence
thing happen.
Okay, so if you're happy with the past sankharas, does that mean, probably you're meaning if you're happy with the past, basically mean happy with the past, that's probably what you mean, right? Just happy with the past, whatever happened in the past. It depends what you mean by that. It depends if you mean you are letting go of the past, allowing the past to be, not worrying about it. If that is what you mean by being happy with the past, that's good. You're letting go of the past means that the past is disappearing, you're developing your mind in the right direction. But if you mean by happy with the past, you mean, oh, the past was so nice. In those days I could really enjoy myself. Right? Before I became a monk, I was so happy. I had all these wonderful things before I became a monk. And now I'm missing all those wonderful things. If that is how you're thinking, of course, it's going to be a problem. And you know that from the Bhaddekarata Sutta, where the Buddha specifically says this is how we should not live. We should not live thinking about the past in those ways, because then our mind cannot stay and remain in the present moment. What you're doing there is you're attaching to the past, attaching to sensual pleasures, attaching to existence, to who you were, to your 5 khandhas, however they were in the past. And because of that, you are trapping yourself in samsara as a consequence. I hope I understood your question right. I'm not 100% sure if I did, but anyway, there you are.
ඒ ප්‍රශ්නේ අපිට එච්චරමත් පැහැදිලි නෑ. නමුත් අපි ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ උත්තර දෙනවා. අතීතය පිළිබඳව අතීතයට යන්න දෙනවා නම් ගලාගෙන යන්න දෙනවා නම් අතීතය අතහැර දානවා නම් ඒ තුලින් සතුටු වෙනවා නම් ඒකේ වරදක් පේන්න නෑ. හැබැයි අතීතයේ සිහි කරලා අතීත පංචකාමයන් සිහි කරලා අතීතය ගැන ලෝභ සහගතව කල්පනා කරනවා නම් ඒ විදිහට අතීතය ගැන සතුටු වෙනවා නම් ඒ තුලින් සංසාරයට අහු වෙන්න පුළුවන්. සංසාර උගුලට ඒ තුලින් අහු වෙන්න පුළුවන් කියලායි උන්වහන්සේ ප්‍රකාශ කළේ. තව ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. සිතුවිලි සංස්කාර එහෙම නැත්නම් සිතුවිලි ගලායම වැළැක්විය නොහැකිය. සක්කාය දිට්ඨිය දුරු කිරීමේ පහසු මඟ කුමක්ද පහදා දෙන්න. Bante, he is asking, it is not easy to stop the flow of thoughts and how to eradicate personality view. Okay. What is the easy way to eradicate personality view?
Okay, the easy way, okay. Okay, so first of all, stopping the flow of thoughts. 2 questions, right? One question and question number 2. Okay, stopping the flow of thought. Well, you have to understand, why is it that you are thinking? What is the reason for the thinking? Why is it going on? And the reason you are thinking is because you are enjoying it, right? Wow, thinking about this, planning about the future, and all of these kinds, we enjoy that. And the only way to really stop the thinking mind is to enjoy something else that is more pleasurable, that is more happy. And this is one of the reasons why it is so important to enjoy your meditation practice. And this is why it is so important to find the ease and find the relaxation, even find the happiness, right? Find the Buddhanusati or whatever it is. All those things that give rise to a sense of ease and well-being. And if you find that well-being in your meditation, you find that those thoughts, they start to kind of fade away. Who cares about the past? Who cares about the future? It is all kind of irrelevant. Who cares about all this fantasizing when the present moment is so nice? So this is one way, and this is the most important way. This is the way that the Buddha certainly recommends in all the suttas. All the meditation practice is about finding that happiness in the present moment, the spiritual happiness, the Dhammic happiness that comes from practicing the path in the right way. And the other thing, of course, is to remind yourself, and this is again from the Bhaddekaratta Sutta, to remind yourself that all that thinking is just delusion, right? Sometimes we plan about the future, we think about the future, and very often the future is just so different from what we're thinking. Why think about all these things when very often they're going to turn out differently? Why are we wasting our time with so much planning, so much fantasizing about things which in reality probably never will come true anyway? So you undermine the thinking mind by understanding how hollow they are, how little they have to do with reality. And when you understand that, again, it brings the mind into the present moment. The same thing with the past, right? Why are you thinking of the past? Sometimes it may have to do with some unfinished business, somebody maybe thinking about somebody told me today, they had some office politics in the office, and this was blocking their mind from peace in the present moment. But all of those things, we have to learn to forgive the past, let go of the past. If it is about people, forgiveness is also always a very powerful way to let go of things. And in any way, the past, when we think about it now, is also a distortion, also a delusion, also not really what happened. So why dwell in delusion? Why dwell in distortion when you can come into the present moment instead? So these are some of the ways. And remember that in the suttas, according to the Buddha, the anapanasati is also the way to really overcome the thinking mind. So once you calm down, once the thinking mind is kind of subdued and you are ready to watch the breath, then that very fact that you're watching the breath is then the final way of eliminating that thinking mind of yours.
උන්වහන්සේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා ඇයි ඒ විදිහට හිතන්නේ කියලා බලන්න. මේ සිතුවිලි බොහෝ ගලාගෙන ඉන්නේ ඇයි ඒ විදිහට හිතන්නේ? ඒ සිතුවිලි එන්න හේතුව මොකක්ද කියලා බලන්න. ඒ මොකක්ද හේතුව? එම සිතුවිලි වල සතුටු වෙන නිසා. එම සිතුවිලි වල සතුටු වෙන නිසා තමයි මේ සිතුවිලි ගලාගෙන ඉන්නේ. ඒ වෙනුවට වෙන දෙයක සතුටු වෙන්න ඉගෙන ගන්න. මොකද්ද වෙන දෙය? භාවනාවේ සතුටු වෙන්න ඉගෙන ගන්න. බුද්ධානුස්සතිය ආදී භාවනාවක හිත සතුටු කරවන්න. එතකොට අර ප්‍රයෝජනයක් නැති සිතුවිලි වෙනුවට ප්‍රයෝජනවත් දෙයක සිත සතුටු වෙනවා. වර්තමානයේ සතුටු වෙන්න ඉගෙන ගන්න. වර්තමානයේ සතුටු විය යුතුයි. වර්තමානයේ ධර්මයේ සතුටු වෙන්න පුරුදු වෙන්න. බද්දේකරත්ත සූත්‍රවල බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේ දේශනා කළා තියෙනවා අතීතේ ඉක්මලා ගියා අනාගතේ ආවේ නැහැ වර්තමානයේ ඒ අවස්ථාව විපස්සනා කරන්න කියලා බද්දේකරත්ත සූත්‍රවල දේශනා කළා තියෙනවා ඒ අනුව අතීතේ ගෙවුණා අනාගතේ ආවේ නැහැ එම සිතුවිලි ඊ타ත්ම නිෂ්ඵලයි අතීතයේ සහ අනාගතයේ පිළිබඳ සිතුවිලි නිෂ්ඵල සිතුවිලි ඒවයින් ප්‍රයෝජනයක් නැහැ ඒවා හිස් ඒවා ඇතුලේ ගන්න සාරයක් මොකුත් නැහැ ඒ නිසා අතීත දේවල් වලට යන්න ඉඩ දෙන්න. ඒකම අතීත සහ අනාගත සිතුවිලි කිසියම් විකෘතීන් ප්‍රකෘති තත්ත්ව නෙවෙයි සත්‍ය තත්ත්ව නෙවෙයි. ඒ නිසා ඒවා අතහැර දාන්න ඒවට යන්න දෙන්න ඒවායේ සැබෑ ස්වභාවය තේරුම් ගන්න. ඒ වගේ මේ අතීත අනාගත දේවල් වලට සිත යොමු කරනවට වඩා ආනාපාන සතියට සිත යොමු කරන්න. ඒ ආනාපාන සතිය උපයෝගී කරගෙන සිත দমনය කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා.
Okay, then you want to know about the the fast way, the shortcut, right, to abandoning the three fetters. Everybody wants a shortcut. Everybody wants the easy way. This is kind of human existence of ours. And I think the whole of our Buddhist history in many ways can be summarized in trying to find shortcuts on the path, right? That's what it's about. Why did Mahayana arise? Oh, this is the second turning of the wheel, the faster way, how to become a bodhisattva, right? This is the first thing. And then you have the Tantrayana, the Tibet, some of the aspects of Tibetan Buddhism, the third turning of the wheel, even more powerful, even faster, right? Every time you hear about the fast way, you hear about the shortcut, you can be pretty sure it's not a shortcut. It's more like what I call the long cut, right? As the long cut, it just keeps it going for a long, long period of time into the future. So be very careful of shortcuts. There is, in the Buddhist teaching, only one path, and that's the Noble Eightfold Path, and that is neither the shortcut nor the long cut, it's the only cut. So make sure you practice the only cut there is, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. And by practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, what you're doing is you're abandoning the defilements of the mind. You cannot abandon the three fetters without first giving up all the defilements of the mind. So abandon those defilements. So much of the practice is about learning how to use the mind to abandon all those things. The most difficult one to abandon, and the one that is trapping most people, is kama chanda. Very difficult to abandon. It's the most deep-seated of all the defilements, and that is the one ultimately you have to work with the most. You find that your meditation is stopping, right? I don't have any anger, I don't really have any restlessness, or everything feels nice and peaceful. Why doesn't it go any further? Very likely to become a chanda in one way or another that is stopping you from making further progress. Sometimes it's very subtle, right? I'm not really fantasizing about anything, so how come it's kama chanda? It's just a subtle attachment to the senses and the body itself that is hindering you from moving on. And then, once the hindrances have been abandoned, then it's quite easy to enter samadhi. The samadhi fortifies the mind, makes the mind strong, and enables it then to make the breakthrough afterwards. Once you have a real state of samadhi, then the destruction of the three first fetters, sakkaya ditthi, etc., becomes possible. So that is the way, right? It's all there in the suttas, straightforward. Just follow what the Buddha taught, and you are going to be in business.
හැම කෙනෙක්ම කෙටි පාරවල් තමයි හොයන්නේ. පහුගිය ඉතිහාසය පුරාම කෙටි පාරවල් හොයන්න ගිහිල්ලා මහායානය කියලා එකක්, තන්ත්‍රයානය කියලා එකක් ඔය නොයෙක් දේවල් හටගත්තා. ඒ වුණාට ඒ කිසිවක් කෙටි පාරවල් බවට පත් වුණේ නැහැ. පහසු ක්‍රම හොයන එක ගැන පරිස්සම් වෙන්න. පහසු ක්‍රම හොයන එක ගැන පරිස්සම් වෙන්න. ආර්ය අෂ්ටාංගික මාර්ගය තමයි එකම ක්‍රමය. කාමච්ඡන්දාදී නීවරණ දුරු කරගෙන සමාධියට එන්න. සමාධියට සිත ආවට පස්සේ සක්කාය දිට්ඨිය ආදී සංයෝජන දුරු කරගන්න පුළුවන්කම ලැබෙනවා. ඒ විදිහට තමයි මහන්සේ ඒකට උත්තර දුන්නේ. ඊට පස්සේ there is another part of this question. Then vartamane sotapanna viya nakida. Bante, in this present time, isn't it possible to be a sotapanna?
Of course it is possible, of course. As long as the Noble Eightfold Path is there, as long as we still have the teachings of the Buddha, as long as we practice that path, of course it is possible. That is the whole purpose. It is only when the teachings get so distorted and so unrecognizable that when it starts to become a problem. But this is one of the reasons I would always suggest to people to focus on the suttas, the word of the actual Buddha himself. Use that as a foundation for all your practice. It is so easy to get sidetracked, in my opinion, when we move away from the word of the Buddha, we move on to the later teachings, whatever that is. In my opinion, the Abhidhamma is not the word of the Buddha, it is a later teaching. So I prefer to stick to those things that I consider the word of the Buddha himself. And if you do that, and we know with a fair amount of certainty these days what those teachings are, right? The four Nikayas. And we know also that many of those teachings have been delivered in an pretty much unchanged, of course there's always some degree of change, but amazingly how well preserved those suttas have been over the past half thousand years. We know that fairly well today through comparative studies and these kind of things. So focus on that. And if you focus on the word of the Buddha, these are the same teachings that the Arahants in the old age, in long time ago, at the time of the Buddha, those Arahants focus on those teachings. Everybody says, oh, at the time of the Buddha, so many Arahants, so many Sotapannas, what about today? You know, there's so few in comparison. So why is that? And I think precisely because one of the reasons today people focus too much on those things that are not the word of the Buddha, and they forget the basic things that are required for actually coming, attaining these states. So return to the word of the Buddha, practice in the right way. Consult with people who have a good understanding of the suttas, and then the path is always open. Sotapanna, once returning, non-returning, arahantship, all of those things are open to anyone who has sincerity and commitment in practicing the path.
ඇත්තෙම පුළුවන් සෝවාන් වෙන්න පුළුවන් මේ වර්තමාන කාලේ. ඒකට උන්වහන්සේ යෝජනා කරන්නේ සූත්‍ර වලට අවධානය යොමු කරන්න කියලා. නියම බුද්ධ වචනය සූත්‍ර පිටකය කියලායි උන්වහන්සේගේ අදහස. විශේෂයෙන්ම ප්‍රධාන නිකාය හතරේ කියන්නේ දීඝ මජ්ක්‍ධිම සංයුත්ත අංගුත්තර ඒ නිකායවල වල ධර්මයේ ඊ타ත්ම හොඳින් ආරක්ෂා වෙලා තිබෙනවා. බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේ කාලේ රහතුන් වහන්සේලා බොහෝ හිටියා. දැන් නැත්තේ මොකද කියලා පිරිස කියනවා. ඒකට ප්‍රධාන හේතුවක් වශයෙන් උන්වහන්සේ දකින්නේ බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේගේ වචන නොවන දේවල් වලට අවධානය යොමු කරලා අවධානය වෙනත් පැත්තකට යොමු කරලා තියෙන නිසායි. ඒ වගේම අභිධර්මයේ ගැන උන්වහන්සේගේ හොඳ ආකල්පයක් නැහැ. අභිධර්මය පසු කාලීනයි කියලා උන්වහන්සේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා. ඉතින් සෝවාන් වෙන්න ඇත්තම පුළුවන් කියලායි උන්වහන්සේ ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නේ. There's another part. සෝවාන් අය අඳුනාගන්නේ කෙසේද? How to recognize Sotapannas?
How to recognize Sotapannas? You look around, okay, any Sotapannas? It is very difficult to know who is a Sotapanna, but what you have to do is you have to look for those qualities in the person that makes them different, right? Remember, a Sotapanna will generally, because they have abandoned certain fetters and because they have a very strong, a full understanding of the Dhamma, they will be slightly different from ordinary people. One of those differences will be a sense of confidence, right? They will have an absolute confidence in the teachings of the Buddha. Because they have an absolute confidence, they will be very independent. They will be completely free from having to rely on other people. They will have a very powerful independence in them. These are two things. The third thing is the fact because you are a stream entry, you have understood the emptiness of the five khandhas, you have understood that there is nothing there to hold on to, there's nothing there to cling on to. You understand that these things are suffering. Because you understand they are suffering, you can let go so easily. So a Sotapanna is always able to enter Samadhi. Certainly when they go on retreat and they get a bit of time for themselves, always have access to the Samadhi, because they're able to let go of the five khandhas. They know the five khandhas are suffering here. So these are some of the examples. Of course, their sila will be very good, right? This is another way you can recognize a stream entry. But at the end of the day, it is very hard to be absolutely sure. And the reason it is very difficult to be absolutely sure is that if somebody is very proficient at samadhi practice, of course somebody is very proficient at samadhi, also sila is very pure, also their conduct will be very exemplary, also they have abandoned a large part of the sense of self, right? So sometimes it's very, very hard to be certain about these things. So your job, or the job of each one of us, if you want to evaluate somebody to be worthy of your respect or whatever, all we can really do is watch. If you see good conduct that is in accordance with the Dhamma, then you can place a little bit of faith and confidence in that person. If you see conduct that is contrary to the Dhamma, right? If you see anger, if you see greed, these kind of things, then you have reasons, good reasons to have a little bit of doubt. So then you have a little bit of less confidence. And often that is all we can do. So be honest with yourself. The Buddha himself said that we should observe him, we should observe other people, and on the basis of our observations, we can then have at least a rough idea who is practicing the right way, who perhaps is an Arya, and who is not.
මේ ප්‍රශ්නයේදී අපි ගුණ බැලිය යුතුයි. කොහොමද ඒ අයගේ සෝවාන් අයගේ ගුණවත් බව පිළිබඳව විශේෂයෙන්ම ඔවුන්ට බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේගේ ඉගැන්වීම පිළිබඳ පූර්ණ විශ්වාසයක් තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම පංච උපාදානස්කන්ධ හිස් බව, පංච උපාදානස්කන්ධයන්හි ගතියුත්තක් නැති බව, ඇලෙන්න දෙයක් නැති බව ඔවුන්ට පැහැදිලි. ඒ වගේම ඔවුන් හොඳ සීලයකින් යුක්තයි. ඒ වගේම ඔවුන්ට හොඳ සමාධියක් තියෙනවා. හොඳ හැසිරීමක් තියෙනවා නම් ලෝභ දෝෂ ආදී අඩු නම් අපට ඒ වගේ අය ගැන කිසියම් විශ්වාසයක් ගොඩනගා ගන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් මේ වගේ දෙයක් පිළිබඳව අපිට 100%ක් හරියට විශ්වාසයක් එහෙම නැත්නම් හරියට තද මතයක් කියන්න අමාරුයි. Bhante, now Sinhala question finish.
Okay, very good.
But there are English.
There are a few more. Okay, very good. Okay, so here we go. So let's get on to the English side of things and see what happens. Okay. Venerable Bhante, when I do metta meditation, I have this experience of being at a great height and looking at all beings with great compassion and feeling this huge sense of sadness. Looking at this long samsaric journey with tears flowing. Please explain, much metta. Okay. Should I just finish first of all? And yeah, is that okay? And yeah. So the reason why you have tears flowing is because you are looking at all the suffering in samsara, right? You are seeing the suffering there. You're seeing all these beings going around, and what you're actually doing is not really metta. What you are trying to do there is compassion rather than metta. And this is one of the things I was saying yesterday, is that a compassion meditation can be more difficult because it always involves seeing the suffering in people to some extent, because compassion is the wish to alleviate and to end the suffering of other people. It's very easy to fall from the feeling of compassion and move on to sadness instead. So because of that, often I think the reason why the Buddha always puts the metta at the beginning is to actually start off with metta, seeing the goodness in the world, seeing the good things in other people, just wishing them well without focusing on the negative things. Right, so you start off your metta meditation, just reminding yourself of what the good qualities are in the heart. What is it like to be kind? What is it like to be generous? What is it like to have an understanding and good feelings and friendship towards other people? You give rise to that feeling inside of you, and then you spread it out to all people around you. May you be well, may you be happy. You see the good qualities, and when you see the good qualities, it's easy, relatively easy, to spread well-wishing to all beings out there. So try that instead. Try to kind of move towards metta, seeing the good in other people, and then hopefully some of that sadness will die down, and hopefully you can give rise to some good feelings.
මෙහිදී වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි මම භාවනා කරන විට මේ සංසාරේ සැරිසරන සත්වයන් ගැන කල්පනා වෙලා කනගාටුවක් ඇති වුණා. කඳුළු ආවා. ඉතින් ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ කියනවා මෛත්‍රිය නෙමෙයි එතෙන්දී වෙලා තියෙන්නේ, වැඩිලා තියෙන්නේ කරුණාව කියලා. කරුණාව ඉදිරියට ඉදිරිපත් වීම නිසා එහෙම කනගාටුදායක ගතියක් ඇති වෙලා කියලා. ඉතින් ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ කියනවා අනිත් සත්වයන්ගේ හොඳ ගති ගුණ සිහි කරන්න, හොඳ පැත්ත බලන්න, ඒගොල්ලන්ට මිත්‍රත්වය යොමු කරන්න, එවිට මෛත්‍රිය වැඩෙනවා කියලා.
Okay. So here this message starts off with "Good day, Bhante." So Is it anybody from Australia here, or is it just the way you express yourself? Anyway, sounds very Australian. Good day, Bante. Please, can you give us some background story how you came to be a Buddhist monk from Norway? How did you find the Dhamma, or did the Dhamma find you? Cheers. So it sounds very, very Aussie, but that's okay. That's good. So the background story. How did I come to be a Buddhist monk from Norway? Did I find the Dhamma, or did the Dhamma find me? I don't know what to say really about that. It's very hard to explain. It is, one of the things that happened to me when I was at university. It was in my early 20s, and I had this strong desire to travel to Asia. I thought traveling to Asia would be really cool. I didn't have any friends from Asia. I didn't have anything like that. I just thought traveling to Asia would be a nice thing to do. So at our university, we had this exchange program, so I was able to go to Japan. And when I went to Japan, I had the first time in my life, I was reading some books about Buddhism, I was visiting Buddhist temples and all these kind of things. And this was my first kind of contact with Buddhist teachings, really. And then when I got back to Norway to continue my degree at university, one of my best friends, he said, "Here's a book about meditation, check it out." And this book was called The Calm Technique, and it was about breath meditation. And so I read this, and I tried it out, and then I had some quite nice results. In meditation, I felt quite peaceful, right? And I thought, wow, this is really nice. This is really good stuff. And that, for me, I think was the trigger point that kind of set me off on this path. Later on, I did some more studies. I wasn't very satisfied with it. I wasn't feeling very happy. It was just too much, I don't know, it wasn't the right thing for me anyway. And then I decided eventually to check out some monasteries nearby to learn a bit more about Buddhism and about meditation practice. And eventually I decided to become a monastic at those monasteries. But where does it all come from? Why is it that I was attracted to the Buddhist teachings in the first place? Why was meditation interesting to me? And I think the answer is very simple. I think the answer is very likely I was a Buddhist monk, at the very least a strong Buddhist in the past life. That is really the only way I can explain this. Because it doesn't make any sense to me how suddenly, out of the blue, you're kind of one person, right? None of my friends became Buddhist monks. I'm like the only one. You're standing out like a sore thumb from the rest of society. It's kind of weird. And that's the only way I can explain it. Where was I a Buddhist monk in a past life? I don't know. Maybe it was here in Sri Lanka. Quite possibly. Maybe I was one of the friends with many of the other Sri Lankan monks here in the past life. Quite likely. Or it could have been in some other country. It's very difficult to know. But that is the thing which I think is the main driving force behind that. So it was the Dhamma finding me finding the Dhamma. It kind of all came together in such a way here.
මේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහලා තියෙනවා බන්තේ ඔබ වහන්සේ බෞද්ධයෙක් වුණේ කොහොමද? ධර්මය ඔබ හොයාගත්තද? ඔබ ධර්මය හොයාගත්තද? ඉතින් උන්වහන්සේ කියනවා මම අවුරුදු 20 විතර ආසියාවට යන්න අවස්ථාවක් ලැබුණා. ඒ අවස්ථාවේදී උන්වහන්සේට විශ්වවිද්‍යාලේ ඉන්න කාලෙදී ජපානයට එන්න අවස්ථාව ලැබුණා. එහිදී තමයි බුද්ධ ධර්ම ගැන දැනගන්න ලැබුණේ. එහිදී යාළුවෙකුගෙන් පොතක් ලැබුණා භාවනා පිළිබඳව. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් තමයි මුලින්ම මේ භාවනාව ගැන දැනගන්න ලැබුණේ. ඊට පස්සේ උන්වහන්සේ ඇතිවෙච්ච තත්ත්ව අනුව ආරාම පිළිබඳව හොයලා බලලා පස්සේ මහාන වුණා. ඉතින් උන්වහන්සේගේ කවුරුවත් යාළුවවත් එහෙම ඉඳලා නැහැ බෞද්ධයෝ. උන්වහන්සේ තමයි තනියම මේ බෞද්ධ වෙලා මේ ගමන ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා උන්වහන්සේ හිතනවා ගිය ආත්මේ උන්වහන්සේ ඊටාම තදබල බෞද්ධයෙක් වෙන්නේ නැති ඇතැම් විට මේ ලංකාව වගේ රටවල් වල ඉපදිලා හිටියා වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් කියලා උන්වහන්සේ හිතනවා.
And I think one of the things that became important to me when I started to feel this way, that this comes from a past life, was to, first of all, it gave me some confidence in past lives, because I couldn't really explain otherwise why I would be a Buddhist. But the other thing which came from that was the feeling that how important it is to make the most out of this existence. Because I make a lot out of this existence, then even if I continue being reborn into the future, I will already have made a lot of progress, already have gone a long way. And it will be easy in the future life to again recognize the Dhamma, right? You recognize the Dhamma simply because you've been practicing in the past. And the way I will continue to recognize the Dhamma in the future, if I continue on this journey in samsara, is exactly the same thing. I have to make the most out of this life, understand the teachings to the best of my ability, and then the future progress will be, hopefully be assured.
දැන් උන්වහන්සේගේ ජීවිතය පිළිබඳව කතා කරනකොට කල්පනා කරලා බලනකොට ධර්මයේ පැත්තෙන් බලනකොට උන්වහන්සේගේ ඉදිරි ජීවිතය වඩාත් පහසුයි කියලා උන්වහන්සේ කියනවා. ඉදිරියේදී තවත් හොඳින් ධර්මයේ පුහුණු කරන්න උන්වහන්සේට අවස්ථාව සැලසෙයි කියලා හිතනවා. මොකද මේ ඒ වගේම සංසාරේ කලින් ධර්මයේ අපි පුරුදු පුහුණු කරලා තියෙනවා නම් ඒක ඊගාව ජීවිතවල ධර්මයේ වහාම අවබෝධ කරගන්න හේතු වෙනවා. දැන් මේ ජීවිතේ අපි ධර්මයේ පුරුදු පුහුණු කළාම ඒක ඊගාව ආත්මවලදී ඊටාම පහසුවෙන් ධර්මය අවබෝධ කරගන්න හේතු වෙනවා කියන කාරණාව තමයි උන්වහන්සේ කිව්වේ.
Okay. Next question, dear Venerable Sir, question number 1, with regard to dependent arising. What is the difference in the level of understanding between a Putujana, a Sotapanna, and the Arahant? So the difference in level of understanding, the Sotapanna and Arahant is the same level of understanding, no difference. It's only that the Arahant is more purified. That's the only difference there. The difference is really between the Aryas and the Putujanas. The level difference there is an Arya understands it. A Putujana only has a kind of intellectual understanding, a certain idea, some experiential understanding, but very limited. It doesn't really understand how Tanha can give rise to rebirth in the future. For me, that is the crucial element that the Arya understands how this process actually continues on from life to life, how Tanha drives this process of rebirth into the future potentially endlessly. So, okay, in particular, could it be possible to be a Sotapanna but only understand the link between Vedana and Tanha, but not the other links of dependent origination? No, that is not really possible. Either you understand dependent origination fully, you understand how the whole sequence works, particularly how Tanha gives rise to rebirth, and that is really the crux of dependent arising. So the stream mentor has understood that. That is my reading of the suttas. Question number 2. Other than the suttas, is there any other literature you would recommend to further our understanding of dependent origination? It is difficult sometimes to know what literature to recommend, because there is so much literature out there. Some of it is really good, some of it is more dodgy, right? I will say some things are not good. Other monks, you will say, well, no, that's really good stuff, right? It's the other stuff which is bad. So who do you trust in the end? It's very hard to know. I would recommend people like the writings of people like Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi. I would recommend. He is quite orthodox, quite traditional, but for that reason also quite reliable. He doesn't veer too much aside into his own opinions and own ideas, but he stays essentially with the traditional understanding of interpretation. It may not be absolutely perfect. In the end, you have to come back to the suttas. But unfortunately, the suttas are sometimes so concise and so short. They don't really explain everything in great detail. So sometimes you have to kind of take time to reflect on these things. And only over time, when you've been a monk for like 20 years, does it start to sink in what this dependent origination really is about. It takes time, unless, of course, you become an Arya, in which case you have an understanding of these things. So try to read the teachings of or the writings of Bhikkhu Bodhi. That can be very, very useful. He has a book called the Great Discourse on Causality, which is an exposition of the Mahanidana Sutta. It is available here in Sri Lanka. It's published by the Buddhist Publication Society in Kandy. The editor there, Venerable Tusita, is quite a good friend of mine. I know him quite well as well. So that is a good place to start. Of course, if you have any particular monks that you trust, because or any teacher you trust, or anyone at all, of course you can listen to their advice. But always, it's always good to anchor everything in the suttas. What does the Buddha say? Does this fit with the suttas, what this person is saying? And then you start to feel confidence gradually building up through that.
ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහනවා මේ පෘථග්ජනයාගේ සෝතාපන්නයාගේ රහතුන් වහන්සේගේ අවබෝධයේ වෙනස කුමක්ද කියලා. උන්වහන්සේ උත්තර දෙනවා සෝතාපන්නයන් වහන්සේගේ සහ රහතුන් වහන්සේගේ අවබෝධයේ වැඩි වෙනසක් නැහැ. නමුත් පෘථග්ජනයාට තියෙන්නේ දැනීම් මාත්‍රයක් විතරයි කියලා. දැනීම් මාත්‍රයක් විතරයි පෘථග්ජන කෙනෙක්ට තියෙන්නේ. විශේෂයෙන් තණ්හාව දුරු කිරීම පිළිබඳව රහතුන් වහන්සේටත් සෝතාපන්න ආර්යයන් වහන්සේටත් පරිපූර්ණ දැනුමක් තියෙනවා. ඊගාට තවත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. වේදනා තණ්හා විතරක් අවබෝධ කරගෙන සෝවාන් වෙන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ වේදනා පත්‍ය තණ්හා කියන කාරණාව විතරක් අවබෝධ කරගෙන සෝවාන් වෙන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. උන්වහන්සේ කියනවා ඒක නොහැකි, සම්පූර්ණ පටිච්චසමුප්පාදය පිළිබඳ අවබෝධයක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ තවත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. පටිච්චසමුප්පාදය ගැන තවත් සූත්‍ර තියනවාද කියලා. ඉතින් උන්වහන්සේ ගැන කියනවා ඒ ගැන හරියටම කියන්න අපහසුයි. බෝධිහාමුදුරන්ගේ බික්ඛු බෝධිගේ පොත් කියවන්න. බික්ඛු බෝධිහාමුදුරෝ මේ මහා නිදාන සූත්‍රය පිළිබඳ පොතක් ලියලා තියෙනවා. දැන් උන්වහන්සේට උනත් මේ බ්‍රහ්මාලි ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේට උනත් මේ පටිච්චසමුප්පාදය පිළිබඳ අවුරුදු 20ක් විතර අධ්‍යයනය කරලා තමයි දැන් මේ තේරිලා තියෙන යම් ප්‍රමාණයකට. ඉතින් ඒක ඊටාම ගැඹුරු කාරණාවක්. හොඳ ගුරු හාමුදුරුවෝ ඇසුරෙන් මේ පිළිබඳව අධ්‍යයනය කරන්න ඉගෙන ගන්න කියලා උන්වහන්සේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
Okay. Okay, so this is a long one. So, okay, my respectful homage to Bhante Ajahn Brahmali. Bhante, this is not the session for praising or thanking. Before I hope to do it at the end of the retreat, but today, while I am doing the Marana Nusati, suddenly I remembered I may be able to die tonight. If I die before ending the retreat, I will not be able to say those things. Wow, that's very powerful Maranasati. That's very good. So I am telling these things now. Bhante, really, you are a very kind and understanding person. You are very calm and happy in every position. I also will try to be like you. Okay, very good. When you are explaining the suttas, it is very interesting and clear. While listening to them, I remember what I have read in Sinhala, and I feel very happy. Sometimes really you are very fast as a jet, but anyway it can grasp the summary of the speech. Yes, I apologize for that. I know sometimes I speak quite fast and a lot of stuff crammed together in a very short period of time, and unfortunately that is sometimes what happens. This is the first time I am listening to your preaching. Really, it is very nice, and I will listen to them again and again. Well, that is very, very kind of you to say all these things. And I would like to thank Bhante Metavihari and all the others who are helping us. I have a lot of things to say, but this is not the time for that. If I don't die before ending this retreat, I will write to you again. Okay, well, this is very, very good. I wish you to have the wisdom to explain Dhamma as Arahat Sariputta, who explained the brief Dhamma points in detail. I wish you to have the wisdom to solve questions, problems, like the Arahat Nagasena, who solved all the questions for King Milinda. I wish you to have the wisdom to attain Nibbana in this life. May the Triple Gem bless you. Okay, it's a very, very nice note, and so that is very always good. So it's always nice to practice right speech, not just to teach about it. So it is, it's always a very positive thing. Okay, let's move on to the next one here.
ඒ ප්‍රශ්نين කියලා තියුනේ ප්‍රශ්නයක්ම නෙමෙයි. ඒ පින්වතා අද මරණානුස්සති භාවනාව වඩන විට මේ වැඩසටහන අතරතුරදී මිය යයිදෝ කියන හැඟීමක් ඇති වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ ටික කියන්න බැරි වුණොත් එහෙම වැඩසටහන අවසානයේදී ඒකින්ද දැම්ම මේ ටික කියනවා කියලා ඉතින් උන්වහන්සේට ප්‍රශංසා කරනවා. මේ අවස්ථාවේදී තමයි උන්වහන්සේගේ කටහඬ ඒ කියන්නේ උන්වහන්සේගේ දේශනාවලට අහුම්කම් දෙන්න ලැබුණේ. ඒවා ඉතාමත් අනර්ග මට්ටමේ පවතිනවා. ඉතින් උන්වහන්සේට ආශිර්වාද කරනවා සරියුත් හාමුදුරුවන්ට වගේ ධර්මය පැහැදිලි කරලා දෙන්න ශක්තිය ලැබේවා. නාගසේන හාමුදුරුවන්ට වගේ ප්‍රශ්න වලට උත්තර දෙන්න ශක්තිය ලැබේවා. උන්වහන්සේට ඉක්මනින්ම ධර්ම අවබෝධය වේවා කියලා අන්න ඒ වගේ ආශිර්වාද රාශියක් සහිත සටහනක් තමයි ඒ ඉදිරිපත් උනේ.
Okay, so the next one is as following. After relaxing and then after the mind settles in samadhi, a concentrated state, when a sudden anger arises, do you willfully contemplate it, watch it, saying, for example, sadosang chittang, anger has arisen in me, or do you continue watching the breath? Okay, so this is a question on how to deal with the defilements of the mind. Sadosang chittang means the mind which has anger, the mind with anger. That's what it means, and this is taken from the Chittanupassana of the Satipatthana Sutta, where you contemplate the various aspects of mind. So what do you do when that happens while you are in your meditation? And the best thing to do, because when you are meditating, hopefully you have a certain degree of clarity about what is going on, right? You are there already, you are relaxing, you are sitting, you are enjoying yourself, and hopefully you have some peace and clarity what's happening. Because you have that clarity, very often you can see the anger coming fairly quickly. You can see this is heading in the wrong direction. I'm going to get upset soon if I continue thinking in this way. And because you see that, you have the ability to redirect your mind. Remember, why is it that anger arises? Why is it that upset arises in the mind? And the reason is because you are looking at the person in the wrong way. You're seeing the negative aspects in a person. You're seeing those things that give rise to negativity and anger. But if you turn your attention either away from that person or you turn your attention to another aspect of that person, right? Like when you come here on this retreat, there are so many wonderful people here, right? People who practicing so hard to do what is right in the world, who have so many good qualities, both the monastics, both the nuns and the monks, and also the lay people. It's wonderful to be in a company like this. The big picture is so great, right? It's such a beautiful big picture here. So instead of finding fault with small little aspects of people, it's so easy to find fault with small little aspects. Everybody has little faults in them. That's just the way things are. You turn your mind back to the big picture and you say to yourself, wow, actually there's so much beauty to see here, so much goodness, so much kindness. That is what I want to focus on. So you use your mind skillfully in this way. Place your attention back on what is good, and then the anger often disappears like that, straight away. Doesn't even have a chance to arise. So this is what I would recommend. If you watch the anger, that is a much weaker way of dealing with it. You can do that as well, and that is another way of dealing with anger, but it's much weaker. If you instead turn your attention away, it's a far more powerful technique to deal with that defilement.
මේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහනවා සිත නැත්නම් කය සැහැල්ලුණාට පස්සේ යම් තරහක් ඇති වෙනවලු. ඉතින් ඒ වෙලාවේ ද්වේෂ සිත බැලීමද කළ යුත්තේ කියලා අහනවා. එතකොට උන්වහන්සේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා හිත තැම්පත් වීම සමග එහෙම නැත්නම් සිත කය සැහැල්ලු වීම සමග සිදුවෙන දේ පැහැදිලිව පේනවා. එතකොට තරහ එන හැටි එකපාරටම හඳුනා ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. ඇයි තරහ වෙන්නේ කියලා බලන්න කියලායි උන්වහන්සේ කියන්නේ. තරහ වෙන්නේ මොකද? පුද්ගලයෙක් දිහා වැරදි ආකාරයට බලන නිසා. එම පුද්ගලයාගේම වෙන පැත්තක් බලනවා නම් හොඳ පැත්ත බලනවා නම් ඒ තරහ එන්නේ නැහැ. දැන් මෙහි එන විට උන්වහන්සේ මෙහිදී මේ අපි ඉන්න පරිසරය පිළිබඳව උන්වහන්සේ සඳහන් කරනවා මේ විශාල භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා පිරිසක් ඒ වගේ මෙහෙණින් වහන්සේලා ගිහි පිරිසක් බොහොම සංසුන්ව ඊටාම හොඳින් භාවනා කරනවා. මේ පරිසරය ඊටාමත්ම හොඳයි, උසස් පාරිසරික තත්වයක අපි ඉන්නවා. එහෙම ඉන්නේද්දි පොඩි අඩුපාඩුවක් එහෙම තිබුණාට ඒක ගණන් ගන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒ වගේ යම්කිසි පුද්ගලයෙක්ගේ පොඩි අඩුපාඩුවක් තිබුණාට ඒක ගණන් ගන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒ අනුව හිතන්න යන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. එයාගේ හොඳ පැත්ත විශාල චිත්‍රය බලන්නට ඕනේ. එයාගේ අනිත් පැති. එතකොට ඒ තරහව දුර වෙලා යනවා. තරහ සිත දිහා බලන්න ගියොත් ඒක දුර්වල ක්‍රමයක්. ඒක අපහසු ක්‍රමයක් විය හැකි. ඊට වඩා හොඳ පහසු ක්‍රමය තමයි ඒ තරහට කේන්ද්‍රගත වෙන පුද්ගලයාගේ හොඳ පැත්ත කල්පනා කරන එක. ඒ ක්‍රමයෙන් තරහව දුරු කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා.
Okay, so next one. Dear Bhante, how can we take metta meditation to its maximum level? Can metta meditation lead us to deep samadhi states like the jhanas? And I can feel warm sensations while doing metta meditation. Any comment? Much thanks and gratitude. So how can you take it to its maximum level? So you just have to keep on doing the metta meditation, keep on focusing, giving, spreading metta to all the directions everywhere, and allowing that feeling to grow, right? To grow and grow and grow. And eventually, if you keep doing that, remember, this takes time, right? These things don't happen overnight. And sometimes it is how you lead the rest of your life will have a very powerful impact on your meditation practice. All of these things work together. So give it time, be very patient, and gradually you should see an improvement in the practice. You really, all you have to do is just continue the basic method, and that basic method will give rise to those feelings, gradually becoming stronger and stronger. And one day you may be able to see things like a nimitta. A nimitta arises because the mind is becoming very peaceful and pure. It doesn't matter whether you use the anapanasati or you use the metta practice. All of these things can give rise to a nimitta in the mind. A nimitta, beautiful light, right? Something like that, arising in the mind. And then you use that nimitta to take you into samadhi as a further on, taking you all the way into the jhana states.
මේ ප්‍රශ්නය අහනවා කොහොමද මෛත්‍රිය උපරිම මට්ටමට පත් කරගන්නේ කියලා. උන්වහන්සේ උත්තර දෙනවා දිගටම ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්න, දිගටම මෛත්‍රී කරන්න. හැම පැත්තකටම මෛත්‍රිය යොමු කරන්න. මෛත්‍රියට වැඩෙන්න ඉඩ දෙන්න. කාලය දෙන්න. ඉවසීමෙන් හදිසි වෙන්නේ නැතුව මෛත්‍රී හැඟීම පුළුවන් තරම් එළියට එන්න, පුළුවන් තරම් වර්ධනය වෙන්න ඉඩ දෙන්න. යම් දවසකදී මෛත්‍රියට අදාළ නිමිත්ත දැක ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි. ඒක විශාල ආලෝකයක් වගේ දෙයක්, ලස්සන ආලෝකයක් වගේ දෙයක්. මෛත්‍රිය ඒ මට්ටමට වඩන්න පුළුවන්කම තියෙනවා.
Okay, and the last question you had is, you're saying that I can feel a warm sensation while doing metta meditation. Any comments? That's good. It's great. Feeling warm sensation is kind of heading in the right direction. So that sounds good. So keep on doing that, and then eventually, hopefully, that will also give rise to piti, and feelings of joy, and all of these things will come as well. And all of those things are the things that you are looking forward to if you keep on practicing this method, and you take it to towards its culmination point.
ඒ පින්වතා සඳහන් කරනවා යාට මෛත්‍රිය වඩනකොට බොහොම උණුසුම් බොහොම හොඳ හැඟීමක් ඇති වෙනවා කියලා. ඉතින් ඒක පිළිබඳ උන්වහන්සේ ප්‍රශංසා කළා. ඒක බොහොම හොඳයි කියලා දිගටම එහෙම කරගෙන යන්න කියලා තමයි කිව්වේ.
Okay, so I think maybe that is enough for tonight. Venerable, are you able to hold on to these things for tomorrow? Yeah. So we will continue the discussions or the questions tomorrow night. And in the meantime, as always, just keep on enjoying yourself, have a good time, and then we'll see you again tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock here.